was at Fairmount Primary School in Johannesburg. Mr. Parker was the teacher. He asked the class, what does everyone want to be when they grow up? Put up my hand. I said, I want to be a DJ. That's eventually what happened next.
Yes.
In the club, starting to DJ, but then we started to put on the club nights, right? And that just started me breaking into the next step of, okay, I want to start touring DJs and touring artists and filling venues, you know. One thing led to another. We met the guys, we connected, we clicked, and we were like, okay, let's do this. And 2013 was our first Ultra in South Africa.
Meet Shaun Duvet, the founder of The Unit, South Africa's premier entertainment company behind iconic events like Ultra South Africa and Corona Sunsets Festival, as well as collaborating on events like Kunye, Balcony Mix, Defected, Glitterbox and Paradisco. Shaun has redefined the landscape of branded entertainment and orchestrated massive tours for an endless list of artists, including Keinemusik, deadmau5, Avicii, Skrillex and Swedish House Mafia, earning him the title of undisputed king of dance music in Africa. Golden, bro.
Let's go, bro.
Thank you so much, bro, for doing this. I really appreciate it. I know how busy you are.
No, dude,
things look crazy your side, so I really, really appreciate it.
100s, bro. Thank you.
Somewhere I really love to start is if you had like a dinner party with your wife and someone asks you what you do for a living.
Oh, man.
What is your answer?
Oh, my God. Are you serious? You wanted to start there? Are we rolling? Are we on right now?
We're on, bro. Okay. Yeah. We're on.
Wow. I think, you know what, as a title, if that's what we want to call it, I'd say I'm an entertainment entrepreneur.
Yeah.
I'm a CEO and founder of The Unit, which is South Africa's leading entertainment holding company.
Yes.
And how we break that down is into different divisions, which is effectively agencies.
Yeah.
Anything Goes, which is our branded entertainment agency, which is focused on building brands and events and into the same space, creating campaigns and running with them. We have Jet Black, which is our artist agency. We've got the Luxury Adventure Club, which we're launching soon, which is very exciting, which is a hospitality and tour operating business.
Epic.
We have the festivals, obviously Ultra South Africa, going into 10 years next year, which is amazing.
Crazy.
We have the Corona Sunsets Festivals, which is amazing as well. Now, there's been 16 to date, which we've done across the country for the past 9 years, which is beautiful. Sure, event-wise, artist tours, everybody from Keinemusik through to Monolink, through to, brands like Defected and Blue Marlin, and, Kunye is another one. The Balcony Mix with Major League, we've done a couple with the guys as well, produced those shows. Salute is another business under the umbrella as well. Salute is our production company, so everything from logistics, putting the shows together, from just running the show from end to end, Liquor.co.za is another business of ours, which is a liquor distribution business, which came out of COVID. Basically, we had to hustle. At the end of the day,
managing bars, or was it?
No, that's the Salute side.
Yes,
so basically, Liquor.co.za came out of COVID, where basically, we were bootlegging to get by.
Yeah. Crazy.
That's the reality. That was distributing liquor, And one of my friends, Alan Jaffe, he's got a great business called eComplete, which is like end-to-end e-commerce, right? And he's like, listen, a few years ago, like I just banked a couple of names, like I've got liquor.co.za as a URL. Crazy. I'm like, let's go, let's go. And so that's a liquor distribution business, which is cool and doing well. And then there's the music, I mean, ultimately that's where I come from, my passion and love of DJing and DJ culture and bringing people together through music has always been, my passion point. And I think if I go back to where it all began, and that's still very much the center point of everything that I do and love, and I think that as time has evolved over time, it's been the different evolutions of that. So from DJing to promoting to opening up clubs and bars and restaurants and into touring artists and into producing festivals and then, getting the liquor in the festivals, and then obviously working very closely with the brands from the sponsorship side of thing, which has been crucial and key. And
Well, listen, you're already the most interesting person at this party now, bro.
Yeah, wow,
definitely going to get the most questions.
You see, it was a tough question to kick off with. Sorry.
It's perfect because like sort of rolls into the next question, because as like I like to ask most guests this: if we were watching the documentary of Shaun Duvet and all this like crazy stuff that you're busy with that you just broke down for us, where does your story begin, bro? Are you from Cape Town here? Did you grow up here? If you could just take us back. We're watching your documentary. How does that documentary start?
Johannesburg, born and bred, proud. I think the way I would kick it off, and it's funny because you have certain memory points, like just over your 100%. Life and time that you remember specifically.
Yeah.
And there's one that I remember, I must have been in about grade 2. In fact, I remember it must have been grade 2 or grade 3. So at that age, you're like 8, 9 years old or whatever it is. It was at Fairmount Primary School in Johannesburg. Mr.
Crazy.
Parker was the teacher. He asked the class, what does everyone want to be when they grow up? Put up my hand. I said, I want to be a DJ.
Crazy.
And it's crazy. It is crazy, but it was more about every day going to school with my parents, like listening to the radio and like the DJ and just playing music and just getting like locked in, like, into that world, and then him talking, and just the power of that connection, I think just like resonated with me, like literally at a super young age, but not knowing anything about club culture, festival life,
Crazy.
Nothing like
so
that.
Like radio DJ,
just the DJ, just the word, the title, the kind of the music, the central point of communication, be it through the airwaves, whatever it is, So I think for me, like that's a kickoff, that's a starting point, and then from
just
there.
On that point, do you remember what show or what you were listening to that it wasn't even, it was more just the industry that you were sort of picking up on?
I think it was just like I say, like driving to school, parents playing music, and that's where it came from. Look, back in the day, and this only came known to me much later on in life. Like my father used to have clubs and bars in like Hillbrow. And in Germany, where he's from, he used to have a club called the Aquarius, like back in Hillbrow, like back in the day. But I didn't even know that, like until much later in life, And his mother, my grandmother, had another like pub in Germany, which she had for many years, which also like just
it's in your blood, Shaun. It's in your blood.
It was in the blood, and that's a good point, because I didn't know that at that time, but it was just this like feeling and this energy of some sort that just connected me and just was special.
Incredible. And at what point do you like for the first time actually DJ or start collecting music thereafter?
So there was always music in the house.
Yes.
My dad used to listen to all these cool funk, soul, rock records, and had these old school hi-fi with a belt-driven turntable on it. Used to play the records and listen to the music. Started playing like tape to tape, like try getting like mixtapes together, things like that. Just like listening to music and just, I think like when the music came on, I just got locked into this like zoned out world and nothing else around me actually existed. So kind of fast forward till about 16, 17 years old, sneaking out the house, going to my first club, which at that point was 206 Louis Vuitton, And I was obviously too young to get into the club, but, at that point, and much like today, you can get in, So got close with the guys, got into the club, and at that point just walked in. It was like this becoming, like, oh my God, like, what is this like place? This is the most incredible place I've ever seen in my life. Watching, this club just like pump and people just going off. And obviously, once again, in some way, shape or form, having that DJ just like connect all of these people, and I just like fell in love with it, And at that point in time, House Africa Records just opened up, which was also on Louis Vuitton, Big shout outs to Tim White, G-Force, Vinnie Da Vinci, and that was very close to where I lived back in the day, because I was like, that's where I'm from, like Orange Grove, Johannesburg, Hillbrow, that's my hood, that's where I grew up. And I used to go to the club, listen to music, and then go down to House Africa in the day, and I just used to spend hours and hours in there, just like flipping through records and listening to music and finding my groove, and going to a lot of parties, a lot of raves, and it just like bit me, it just bit me, and I started collecting records, obviously, and started playing. And then, you know, at home, my parents' house just got like 2 belt-driven turntables and started figuring out the art of mixing and putting music together and putting records together. And I used to spend hours and hours just like doing this, you know. Sure, you know, I think, that was about 17, 18 years old, you know, and then then I started playing in the club, you know.
Do you remember your first gig?
Oh, man. I'm trying to remember. It was at 206. But this is also a funny story. In fact, yes. Oh, man, you just reminded me. So, interesting, you know, my name, Shaun Duvet, D-U-W-E. That's how you say it, but that's how you pronounce it as well, Duvet, right? And the very first gig I had at 206 with Alan Freeman, he phoned me up and he's like, all right, let's do this. I want you to come play. And there was no social media. There was no really texting back then. It was like an old school telephone, like ring the dial, whatever.
Crazy.
And he's like, what's your name for the flyer? I'm like, just put my name, Shaun Duvet. And he spelt it D-U-V-E-T, Shaun D-U-V-E-T.
Crazy.
And I remember my dad like driving down Louis Burton. He's like, boy, like, have you changed your name? I'm like, what are you talking about? It's like, I've seen posters like all the way down. Because back then there was no social media. That's how we used to flyer and we used to poster and everything. There was my name like all the way down the highway. And Shaun Duvet became my stage name, you know, DJ name. And it's quite ironic because today, you know, it's Duvet, but in life and business and family, you know, but people still can't pronounce it. It's kind of, I wish it was still spelled D-U-V-E-T because people get to spell it like they pronounce it much easier, you know? So that's how like the DJing started.
Beautiful. What a great story, man.
You know?
And so first gig, do you remember like...
Yeah, I kind of vaguely do, you know, and just fell in love, like just got deeper and just was like, right, like I'm in.
Wow.
I'm all in. Like this is it. And just like laser focused on it all, you know? And started becoming a resident DJ and playing like every week. And as that started to happen, I started to understand the club culture more and more. You know, I started understanding the economics and the business and how to, you know, back then, firstly, you know, the art of DJing, like you'd play for 5 hours, 6 hours. It wasn't these like 1 hour sets, you know.
And what music are you predominantly playing?
It's an interesting question. So back then was the rise and the start of UK garage and two-step. And everybody around me was collecting house music, right? And I loved house music. You know, it was like part of my crew, and that's how we grew up. We lived and breathed house music.
Yeah.
But I'll never forget going, you know, to House Africa, and I was like, Vinny, I want more. I want something else. I want the same records as everybody, you know? And he's like, check this out. And there was like a Sade sweet taboo like flip of some some like garage like Artful Dodger or some like remix, and I just heard da ta da ta da ta da da ta, and I was like, whoa, like it's not just this this flat rhythm, this flat beat, you know. I was like, I'm into this, and I just started finding more and more of this music, and that became my groove. Like
incredible.
UK garage and two-step became my thing. I was the only DJ in the country like playing that music.
Crazy,
and
man.
Pushed it and loved it and started, and you know, and it was a good time in the UK for that music because it was rising so much. There was a lot coming up, but nothing was coming to South Africa. So I was the only person buying it. I was like, Vinny, please, you got to get me this music as much as you can, and started bringing it more. So that became like my groove. And the beauty of 206 back in like the late 90s is that as a nightclub, it was the first like open culture space, right? Like at that time, you know, it was like just after apartheid basically, but like we were into everything, into hip hop culture, into breakbeat, into drum and bass. You know, it wasn't a black club, it wasn't a white club, it was like open to all, you know, and that was like where like sonically I also saw the beauty of just music bringing all race, culture and people like together, you know. Yeah. And so that UK garage and two-step sound worked really well, like within the drum and bass format, the two-step format, garage, breakbeats, trip hop. That's, you know, shout out to Kid Funk. Me and him, we started together, like, you know, in that world, you know. So, and I got so into it that eventually, like, I started. What happened then? Like, I actually released a mixed disc with Pure Silk Records, which is like a big record label in the UK, and yeah, man, I can talk about it forever.
Please, yeah, man, forever. I love it, man.
I mean, from there, so now I'm about 18, still in high school, just finished, right?
Yes.
After that,
tell me, what's the scene looking like in Cape Town? Are you in touch with other people doing a similar thing here, or at that point, or across the country, or is it still a very Joburg thing?
It's very Joburg, very Joburg. Although, like, you know, I was very close, and still am today, with the guys like Ryan Dent and Craig D'Souza back at the time, which was like very much like championing like the house music like side of things.
Got you.
And that's how they're promoting, because that's eventually what happened next.
Yes,
so in the club, starting to DJ, but then we started to put on the club nights, right? And that just started me breaking into the next step of, okay, I want to start touring DJs and touring artists and filling venues, you know, and like Ryan and Craig, well, it wasn't Craig, it was Ryan had a club at the time in Cape Town called Club Soda.
Yes.
And I did a tour with Club Soda with Ryan Dent coming down, and that like opened that up, you know, and then we started bringing artists like Stanton Warriors and Justin Robertson and Cutler Rock and DJ Aphrodite and all of these like
crazy
like artists, you know.
And was it quite easy to get them at that time?
No, it was very challenging, you know, but I was doing it with the owner of the club, you know, so there was a bit of there was a bit of a parachute, and obviously, you know, we could work on that, but ultimately the only way that it could happen was with brands getting on board.
Yes.
That was it. And that was like automatically a click in my head. I'm like, hold up, like the only way that we can do this is to get like the brand support. And at the end of the day, the deeper you go into like understanding the dance floor and the music and the culture and the roots and the diversity of all these people it brings together, the more that you start understanding the brands that want to be associated with these people, it's almost my job and duty that wants to produce these shows to find these brands, understand their intricacies, what their values are, and how to connect those dots together to effectively create campaigns and ideas and shows and tours through through sponsorship, you know, to roll these out. And that's what, and you know, back then we were working with like Gouloirs Blonde, you know, like the cigarette brand, and like
crazy.
And that's just like how the evolution of like anything goes, which we'll get to, became like the branded entertainment agency, with effectively like working closely and understanding brands and putting them in.
But where does that
space.
like come from? Like, did you study after school? Or?
Oh, okay, so so basically after high school, I went to Allenby campus, Joburg.
Yes.
Wanted to be a lawyer. I was like, that's it.
Crazy.
Law, I'm in. Let's go. I watched the Devil's Advocate at the time, and I thought that was the coolest movie in the world. I want to be a lawyer. I'm in. I'm still DJing at night in the clubs and stuff, you know. And but you know, effectively, I was doing marketing at the same time, right? And then it didn't. Like 2 weeks in, I'm like, I'm not going to be a lawyer. It's not going to happen, you know. Also had a part-time job doing public relations with a friend's father, you know. So again, like within that marketing space, communications. So then I jumped into do an IMM degree, you know, and so it's marketing related, and still gigging and still doing gigs all the time. So it was this natural evolution of now kind of practically understanding or hearing like the marketing side of it and actually putting it into play, like with the shows that I was doing. So it was this natural fit, which I, you know, learned more and more about, which was great. So, yeah, I mean, fast forward from there.
I mean, it's crazy, but to see that discipline between the studying, and to studying, playing the shows, to getting to a point to going, you know what, I am going to get deeper with the brands. This is what unlocks the tours coming. I'm going to get deeper into what they need. And, you know, to take that step is like, just shows a lot about the way you think and do your thing.
I just wanted to throw great parties.
Crazy.
I just wanted that connection. Like in the club, you know, there was nothing greater than it.
Yes.
And, you know, to see brands like thrive within that space.
Yes.
You know, it just made perfect sense. You know, everyone was happy. And then from there, I went naturally from my garage music background, you know, wanted to go to London. Like, that's it. I want to go to the UK. I want to experience it. And I did it, you know, and it was amazing. You know, what did I do in London for a year and a half? I just DJed as much as I could, worked in bars. But I think the biggest, like, kind of, I also threw a few parties. brought like Ready D out, which was cool. So we got like the South Africans behind it, which was good.
Crazy.
But I did pirate radio. For a year and a half. Now, pirate radio, if you know what that is, like I was deep in it. It was deep.
Crazy,
so where I used to live in like northwest London, there was a station which I think is still on today called Flex FM. And back then we just used to like tune into the radio. It was like, okay, cool, we found the frequency. Now with pirate radio, like it's illegal, right?
Yeah,
so like everybody fights for frequencies, and if the cops lock onto the frequency, they hone in on it, and then they come and like arrest you and like break down the studio, and it's like, you're done, get out of here.
Crazy, bro.
That was my thing, the pirate radio. So with Flex, I tuned into it like every day and like started talking to the guys like on text message, like, yo, I love this song, like this is great, I know this record, like. And then eventually found out who the guys were from clubbing and partying, and then got to go there. And then eventually, like just through passion and love and determination, got like a weekly spot like on the show, But we were moving around so much to avoid the cops, because it was
crazy.
So we were landing up in like council houses, like getting into council houses. We basically scoped these houses out for like a month or so, see that no one was there, get in there, like set up the station for like as long as we could until we got bust,
That's crazy,
and we just
bro.
went. And then there was, and then our longest running one, which actually worked out great, was at the back of like a car wash.
Yes.
A dodgy car wash, because from driving from the outside, you just think it's like some guys cleaning cars and a mechanic, but in the back was like, with like Nicky Black Market and like all of like the drum and bass heads and just like dropping, so
crazy, man.
So pirate radio was a big part of my life at that point, and then I came back to Cape Town. Well, then I came back to Johannesburg about a year and a half later, and in London, in fact, I met a very good friend, Josh, and he came. He was working with Sony Music at the time, and he's like, listen, man, I was like 21 years old, give or take. He's like, look, I'm done with like the record label business. Like, I want to break. I want to do my thing. My friend's opening up a bar here in Cape Town called Caprice. Like, do you want to come down? Like, James Small, he's like, he's opening up this bar down here. You want to come out? I'm like, bro, let's go. I'm in. So I packed my stuff from Joburg, got down, and myself and Josh and James, basically like, when I say open it up, we ran the music and the events and the entertainment with it forever. And there was some crazy good times. We lived together. It was a process, and that was like, that's how I came into Cape Town. That's how it began. And I guess through DJing and partying and like that whole culture, and now being in a position once again, like back from my 206 days, within Caprice, started to do the same thing effectively, throw parties, work things out as to, how to get the parties busy. Once again, working with the brands to make things work, because DJs cost money, there's marketing, there's flyers, like, how do we do this, And then it started like understanding the, deeper and deeper of the liquor trade and the liquor industry, because that's where it's at, that the brands want to come in, they want to do new launch. It all makes sense. So started putting these packages together with the brands and throwing these parties. And at the time, I wanted like my own name and business and identity, and in fact, it's quite funny because I kind of hope that they're listening, but like Louis and Kenny, Masters at Work, they had, and I think they may still have, a radio show called the Anything Goes Radio Show.
Yes.
And I was like, oh my God, that's the coolest name I've ever heard. Like, Anything Goes. It's just so great and fresh, and like, and
broad,
it talks to me like musically as a DJ, because I was playing everything at the time, like Anything Goes, and Josh, he really helped me, like, also just craft me sonically, very much into soul and funk and world music, and just that title Anything Goes like resonated with me in a big way.
Yes.
So effectively, did that, opened up Anything Goes, and did that through my first party, which was about 21 years ago, like Anything Goes, and I did it in Camps Bay. Crazy. And back then we had everyone, because you're back from the 206 days, I grew up with like Waddy, who's Ninja now, with he used to do Max Normal and 340 mil and Tumi and the Volume, Crushed and Sorted, Sarbot, like that's the crew,
Crazy,
and that's how we began throwing parties under the banner Anything Goes, right? Gosh, and that just became more than a title and a name. It became, in my mind, a bigger opportunity for this bridge, once again, for like the brands and the clubs to create what effectively today is the branded entertainment agency.
Yes.
You know, I just love that as a holding title, because we're taking the brands and entertainment, creating campaigns and vehicles and making things kind of,
100%. And you guys had quite a community already, right? So like all the shows were, because that's something about you, bro. It's like, I don't think people realize how crazy your community is. It genuinely feels like every show you do is successful,
Bro,
it's like you have people who are so loyal to you, and there's definitely a level, a standard that you have across all your shows. Tell me, bro, what was the sort of big moment? Like you're in Cape Town, you're doing the shows, everything's falling into place.
Yeah. So I'm trying to backtrack as much as I can in my mind, but at that point, again, just sticking to the core of like music and passion and like tours and club life and building out like bigger and bigger shows. And again, once knowing the strength of the brands, I guess I got close to Pernod Ricard.
Yes.
Right. That was like the first sponsor that I really like got on board. And at the time, like tequila was like a taboo like word. Like people were like, oh man, like
really?
You don't really like drink tequila like then. It was tough. But I created a brand for them called the Olmeca Dimension. And what the Olmeca Dimension was like this club tour across the country. We did like 30 dates with a group of like local DJs that did this tour. And, at each different venue, there was a different look, a different feel, but had this like silver lining of like, electronic music culture attached to it. And it was amazing. Like, it was amazing. We created the brand, and it was like the first branded entertainment property, which we did. And it ran for like 4 or 5 years and did incredible like numbers for the brand. And then like later on, and this wasn't much further because we'll get there next, it was Olmeca Dimension that presented Deadmau5, which was the first effective like national tour of up to 30,000 people I did. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so, it kind of got there. So yeah, that was around like the 2002 mark, 2003. Set up Anything Goes as this business to communicate with the brands, and obviously staying at my roots of like music and club culture. Then I did that for a few years. There was a club in Camps Bay called St. Eve's back in the day.
Yes.
What was that before? I can't remember. And basically I took over the venue and produced shows there for like 3-4 years and just programmed it all, So at that point now it was like, okay, understanding programming of like filling clubs 4 or 5 nights a week.
Got you.
And once again, getting the brands on board to support it and, creating all of these different nights, that have got different identities because you can't have the same people each and every night. And I just, at that point, had the itch to open my own club. I had to do it.
That's what I wanted to ask. Did you have a venue before the Deadmau5 show?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
First venue.
The Bang Bang Club.
Oh, crazy. Iconic, man. Jeez.
Bro, the Bang Bang Club. In fact, it's funny because when I walked in here, I've got cold shivers, bro. It was about 2005 that it's all started.
Yes.
Like, okay, I want to find a club. I'm ready to go. Got my crew together. We're going to open up a nightclub. We're so deep in like the scene. We know what to do. And there was Opium before that. So we did like all the parties at Opium as well. There was another club, right? But I wanted my own. And ironically, like where we are now, and like I said, when I walked in here, like the building across the road that I used to live in, my wife was reading a book called The Bang Bang Club, which is actually like quite a political story about a photographer in South Africa back in apartheid, if I'm not mistaken. And it's got this like deep-rooted like history around it, and it was quite sensitive, But I was like, a club called the Bang Bang Club? Are you kidding me?
That's a brilliant title.
Bro, that's the name. Are you kidding me? Let's go.
Incredible.
So I mean, worked hard to find a site.
Yeah.
And the site was 70 Loop Street.
Crazy.
Which is Coco now, which is my daughter.
Crazy.
So we'll get there just now as well.
Wow. Crazy.
So so eventually found this spot, and I was just like, right, let's open up a club, boys. We in, let's go. And I just remember like that first night, you know, okay, let's get a sound system. Let's get the DJs. Let's market. Oh, bro, the cops shut me down like immediately. Serious? Of course they did, bro. They like even chained it up. They like chained up the doors. They're like, there's no ways anyone's going in. You're like, where's your liquor license? Where's this? Crazy. Where's your this? Where's your this? I'm like, what do you mean, guys? Yeah. So that was a good like year and a half of like really like
figuring out and
of figuring it out. And it was tough, man. I was like, what am I doing? This is crazy, you know, like, because it was hard. They didn't let us open. Then eventually like got the paperwork in place and opened up the club. And once again, you know, we traded Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, 4 nights a week. And we traded for about 4 or 5 years, you know. And on Wednesday nights, and this is another story because I saw you had him on the interview, and bless him because I love him. Chris Jack, 20 years old, studying, you know, walks into my office, into Anything Goes.
Yeah.
And he's like, hey, man, I want to DJ. I want to come to the club. I want to play, you know. I'm like, tell me about yourself, you know. Like, okay, cool. Let's hear it out. Now me and my mate Nick, we want to do a club night. But I want to DJ, and then like it evolved into a club night. It's quite similar to what I did, you know. And he came up with this name, Get Dumb, you know. So Get Dumb Student Nights was our Wednesday nights, which used to like pump.
Crazy.
That was Chris. That was it. And then Chris worked for me at Anything Goes for many, many years,
crazy,
you know.
Man.
And then on Thursday nights we did our Psytrance nights, which were great. Which then evolved into like a lot of Psytrance festivals in and around. Some of them are still kind of out there and running today. And then on Friday nights, we had Bliss with Raymond Bloom, which was more like progressive and older, like techno crowd.
Yes.
And then on Saturday nights, we did an Anything Goes party, which was house music and like all its different shades.
Was it a big transition from like curating a night to actually running a club where you have this day-to-day like time. Staff and the whole bunch of...
Big time. Like, you know, I think absolutely. You know, when getting into things like that, it's horses for courses is what I can say now. You know, like I know where my skills are.
Yes.
And it's about the right partnership and the right people. Gotcha. You know, so like, you know, my partners, you know, Freddie at the time and Garen, like Fred was like operations. Like that was his thing. Like he got to live and breathe the club life, you know, and
amazing.
And that's kind of like being in there, opening up, you know, from start to finish. You know, for me, I was more about the music, the culture, the brands, the parties, the sponsorship, you know. So you've got to, there's a very few rare unicorns out there that can balance both worlds, you know. So it's having the right team in place, you know. And I was very grateful, and I'm very lucky to have had, and still to this day, amazing partners in my life.
Amazing.
That I'm forever grateful for, you know, for those reasons, because if I was on my own, there's no ways that would have happened.
Got you.
I wouldn't have been able to manage, you know.
Got you.
Sure, bro.
Tell me about, so you've got the Bang Bang Club. What would you say the natural progression from there, the next sort of big moment would be the Dead Mouse show? Or is there anything that we missed in between there?
No, I think that's... Yeah, so the Bang Bang Club did it, like ran its course, and we sold it.
Yes, got you.
And at that point, in fact, the St. Ives stuff actually came after that.
Okay, got you.
So like it was like kind of in between. But at that point, you're talking like 2010, 2011, around that time. It's when dance music globally exploded.
Yes.
Like this is when the Black Eyed Peas and David Guetta released I Got a Feeling. 100%. And all of a sudden dance music, which I'd been like in my blood for all this time, became this like...
The biggest genre in the world.
The biggest genre in this world.
Pop,
it's like
basically.
Pop phenomenon, literally, you know. And out of it came all these superstar DJs. You know what I mean? Like Swedish House Mafia, Avicii, Skrillex, you know... The birth of the superstar DJ, you know, and out came Dead Mouse in like 2010. He came out with Strobe, and he was the first like artist to have this like character, this big hat. I'm like, oh my god, like this is.
I was at the show, man. Wasn't it at
Wild Waters in
That's it. I'll never forget the moment, because you know, like Wild Waters off the road where you can see the party, and I'll never forget we like mates hired the combi to take us to the show, and I'll never forget that moment when we all saw the stage and the, like just And we were like, oh my goodness, this is going to be crazy. This is something else. And it was like a moment, you know, before that, it's like we're getting stuff into South Africa.
Yeah.
But it was, I feel like, one of the first times we got something that was like timing wise while the rest of the world got it. It didn't feel like 2 years or 3 years later. It felt like it was like almost too good to be true. It was like, is it really happening? Is it not happening? You know?
Yeah.
That was a special show, man. I remember all of us like just walking out of there. I remember leaving the venue, like stepping into this massive puddle of mud, and I didn't care. I was like, I had one of the best times ever. You know?
Oh man, thanks, man. It kick-started it all. You know,
How many people you said?
We did, you know, we did it at the CTICC here in Cape Town, and while what is there? I think in total we did about 25,000 to 30,000 people between the shows. And it just kicked off like a revolution. It was just like, okay, dance music is here.
Yes.
The market is hungry for it.
We're at the forefront.
We're at the forefront. Let's do this thing, you know? And then the tour started. Like, you know, that was it, the solo big artist tours, because we cracked the code of producing shows like on the scale with one big artist. And I think after Deadmau5, oh man, I'm trying to remember. I think it could have been Avicii.
I remember Swedish House Mafia. We came to that as well.
Yeah, Swedish House Mafia.
Tell me something.
Skrillex.
And that jump between now you're talking arena, you're talking sort of festival level numbers. What was that transition like just in terms of organization and bringing the right partners?
Yeah, all of that. Lessons and lessons and lessons. And it's exactly like that. You know, like you say, it's horses for courses. It's working with the right people who know their space and what they're good at, and letting them run and do their things, you know, and knowing your place as part of the ecosystem that it is, and just working together, you know, to aim for the end result, you
100%.
know. But I think, again, like from my side, it was just this unbridled like energy and passion. Okay, guys, like what's next? Like we got this, you know.
Crazy.
And then what was next? I think next could have been Aoki, and then it was Avicii, and then it was Swedish House Mafia, and then it was Skrillex, and then it was Colcox on New Year's Eve.
Madness.
And it was just getting
One
bigger
after the
and
other.
bigger and bigger, and the market was just like into it and loving it. And it was around that time, 2013, that the market, you know, this is almost like when I say the birth of social media, it's not right, but it's more like, this is when things like really started like popping on socials, and like you started getting social listening and like, okay, these types of things. And people just, you know, it was like Tomorrowland and Ultra and like, and people were just like, bring the festivals, you know, like we want Tomorrowland here, we want Ultra here, you know. And through our relationship through Colcox and his team, the production touring director was very close to the Miami team, right, of Ultra, who started Ultra in Miami 25 years this year ago, you know. And the conversation came about touring and taking on the brand for the South African, you know, for Africa, for the African continent, because at that point it was in Europe for 1 year, in Croatia, it was in Korea, it was in Ibiza. This was about 10 years ago. And, you know, one thing led to another. We met the guys, we connected, we clicked, and we were like, okay, let's do this. And 2013 was our first Ultra in South Africa, you know, and I think it was a good 40,000 people, you know. And I mean, like, you're talking dance music back in the day, but like, it's interesting because at that time, like, there was this new kid on the block, Martin Garrix. He came out with a record called Animals, you know, and I was just like, okay, wow, like there's something massive here. Booked him, and he was the first. Ultra South Africa was the first show in the world he'd ever played on like a festival stage.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Serious?
And like, and it's amazing. He's grown up to be like the number one like EDM DJ in the world right now, you know.
100%.
So, man, you know, and so the festival evolution started, and, you know, with all of that, you know, kind of still having anything goes, still having like roots within the club culture and the music and all of that stuff, and understanding the brands. Now we needed to take things to another level. The budget's on another scale. We're not doing parties and like little nightclubs for 500 people anymore. You know, we're talking big scale here. And so in came, like the bigger, more strategic thinking about getting these sponsors on board.
Yes.
And okay, guys, you're not just coming in and doing, we got to do this much bigger. We got to do through the line campaigns. And so I started understanding much more of the media component side of things, like from, billboards to TV to radio to media to content, and like how brands can really use this as vehicles to like grow their, their social listening, their content, their markets, all of these things.
And this is because of basically that brands, maybe have, let's say, 100 million rand a year towards event sponsorship, but towards a media buying, they have somewhere, 10 times that is. And then you're seeing those pieces and going, we need to tap into.
Totally.
You. Very clever.
Totally.
Yeah.
And it was just, and so, started bringing the brands more on board.
Yes.
They saw the value of the amount of people, obviously the liquor sales, the opportunity, and and so the sponsors kept coming on board, and Anything Goes was kind of in the center of that,
Yes.
and continues to be that,
Yeah. And you guys weren't scared to try things. I remember Ultra even like tried the 2-day thing, and then you guys restructured, you bought it back, and it was like, I loved it. I loved that you guys took risks. It's not enough times you see people try something, reel it back at a certain time.
That was some hard lessons. That's 2 days.
Yeah,
that was a 4-day weekend, in fact, because it was 2 days in Johannesburg, 2 days in Cape Town, flipping the artists over, double production. So we got Friday, Saturday, Johannesburg, Saturday, Sunday, Cape Town, flip. And it just like we got, I mean, you say that like everything looks good. Not all that glitters is gold. I mean, there's
100%,
man,
100%.
I can tell you some other stories, bro. Like, but very grateful for those, those hits as well.
100%.
Because it makes you stronger.
Lessons, right? In those moments.
Totally. And
when do you link up with Tony? Is he sort of your partner all the way from
Dead Mouse?
Dead Mouse. Okay, crazy.
So Toast, exactly. So Tony and I go way back. In fact, there's Alan Freeman, who I actually got to do a big shout out to.
Yes.
So Alan was the owner of 206 back in the day. He was the first club owner like to give me a handout, like
Crazy.
Let's go, And it's quite funny because Alan and Tony like grew up together. We're like best friends.
Madness.
And Toast, from the entertainment side of it and family entertainment and all of those things that we were doing.
Yes.
Like, he was doing all these big shows, and I'll never forget going to his office with him and his mom, Hazel. Big shout out to Hazel Feldman as well. She's the iron lady of it all. I was like, guys, we're going to bring out Dead Mouse. And they're like, what are you talking about? And and this is from the guys that produce Disney shows. Yeah. So like, I'm talking about Mouse, like, don't worry, like we got this covered. And I'll never forget like being in that office and like showing them a video of Dead Mouse. And there's like Joel riding around like a little bicycle at a gig and gets behind the decks and puts on like his like mouse hat.
Yes.
And they're like, are you joking? Like, what do we trust me, guys. And that's how it began, and Toast to this day, is my partner.
Crazy.
With Ultra and all of these big tours. And bless him, he's taught me a lot as well, without a doubt.
Incredible, man. And to work together for that long just says a lot about your guys' relationship.
Listen, bro, we've gone through a lot.
I'm sure.
So yeah, man. So that was about 2014, 2015, and then it was around that time as well that Corona came into South Africa.
Yes,
as well, and from Anything Goes, we're doing their brands and their activations and things like that, and the Corona Sunsets Festival became basically, but it was started in Ibiza. First, that was the first one. And then the intention was to expand and do like more of these shows. And so became the first one, I think in 2015, 2016. And, running concurrently, effectively was Ultra, this massive behemoth. And, from the Anything Goes side, like really focusing on Corona as well and all these different activations and building this brand from scratch.
Crazy.
And I think it was like very much at that point that I got really close with the SAB, AB InBev people.
Yes.
And big shout outs to them because we've done incredible things over the years.
Yeah.
with all of their brands, and I'm just forever grateful for the partnerships because we've done so many cool things, and I think there's been this amazing trust that they've given to me and me to them, and it's just evolved into like all of these beautiful shows and campaigns. So many things also happened with after that. I'm just trying to think things.
I mean, couldn't have fallen into the hands of anyone better. Like the concept Corona sunsets, and then coming to the guy who understands the dance world, probably in terms of promoting deeper than anybody else in the country, and just to see your guys' synergies on that show, man, and where you've taken it, really. Like,
thank you, bro.
I check up on like the other Corona sunsets around the world, and you definitely give it a little finesse that I think,
thank you, bro,
really speaks volumes. And just the design, the venue, here in Cape Town, that must be one of the most beautiful venues in the world, man. I mean,
I'll tell you some funny stories on that as well. Listen, we've had so the Glen Country Club, big shout outs to the Glen, and I'll tell you right now as well, like I know that that's the best venue for a festival like like in the world, in this country, in this continent. You can't find a better space in my view. And I've looked far and wide. There's beautiful venues out there, but that ticks all of those boxes for a Corona Sunsets festival. Like it's perfect. But going there and producing a festival was not easy. I mean, you've got the wealthiest people, firstly, in South Africa. I mean, we've got Christo Visser, like on the edge of the field there, basically. And in terms of getting approval from all of these people, these are one thing, Then, it's the ratepayers, obviously, right? Then it's on a country club footprint, right? So the country club has been running for, however many years it has done, and it has all its different divisions and clubs. There's the tennis, there's the soccer, there's the bowls. There's a committee that runs and takes care of the country club. There's a constitution. It's very old school and proper,
old, and
it's like
100%.
So it's run like really well. Then obviously there's the restaurant, there's the bungalow on there. Then the field itself is actually the school field from the high school at the top as well.
Oh, crazy!
So getting and this is why no one else can actually do a show there. Getting all of these like approvals was like a year process. Madness. That eventually, like I just went to even the country club guys. I'm like, guys, I will come here on Sundays and cut cucumber sandwiches. Like for all of the bowlers, like I'll do whatever you want to let me do the show here. And they gave in, and I'm on the board, and I have been for some time. Crazy. So.
But there's also something great about not doing too much at a venue, because it also doesn't. I mean, like the wear and tear of shows on a venue is crazy, and it kind of works and makes those shows so much more special.
Absolutely, it's like the spiritual home of it, and the evolution of Corona as a brand. I'm just super proud to be and have been a part of it for all these years.
100%.
It's evolved into wellness, it's evolved into nature, it's evolved into outdoor, the ocean. Like there's just so many incredible touch points around the brand that at the heart being the sunsets and just all of these beautiful kind of opportunities around it just makes it so exciting. And I think that like marketing brand side of me that just really like resonates well with it. And the next evolution of it, which I don't know if it's a bit early to be talking about it, but I guess there's a global play. The travel is a big part of the next strategy.
Incredible.
And you'll see that rolling out, and the beauty of now connecting travel to relaxing, to unwinding, to events, to music, to kind of global living outdoors. And it's just amazing to be a part of it. There's a massive team, and it's incredible.
It's the pinnacle of brand and show coexisting, right? Because it's like one thing, you're a headline sponsor of an event, but to become the brand name, becoming the very event itself is just brilliant. And just also here in South Africa, I mean, that's like one of our big festival dates. Every time it pops up, it's like part of the culture here in South Africa.
100%.
And it's incredible to see, man, like that, just bringing those synergies together, that's
Yeah.
like what every brand's
Yeah.
dream is, really. You know, I go
Totally.
into so many meetings, and the references of Corona sunsets is ridiculous.
Yeah,
You know?
no, there's a lot of love that goes into it. There's a lot of planning. It's super proud to be a part
Yeah.
of that whole ecosystem, you know. So we've got some beautiful plans coming up. The next one's on the 2nd of November.
Incredible.
We've got amazing Q4 plans coming out. So yeah, and big plans for next year as well. So super exciting. But I've missed a few things.
Yes. Go ahead. Backtrack. Go
I'm
back.
backtracking now because I knew there was something in between
Yes.
the kind of ultra and festival times.
Yes.
So I'm just trying to think of time-wise here. This is like 2011, 2012, right? Remember, I sold the Bang Bang Club.
Yes.
I sold it to a guy named Fred Spider, a French guy, right? And then, I still want to get back in the clubs. I still got that itch. It's like just part of me, you know? And we got wind that he just wasn't operating the club. The old landlords phoned me up and they're like, just take this place back. This guy has no idea like
Wow.
what he's doing, or he doesn't hear this, but you know what I mean? Like there was an opportunity to take the space back, put it that way, right? And at that time, and still even long before then, I guess just through the industry, myself and Stefan Cohen have been super tight all of these years. Now at that point, Stefan just opened up Moloko in Johannesburg, you know, and was spearheading like the urban like party market, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And doing it so well. And I was like, Steph, come, let's do this. You know what I mean? Like the last club was it was more dance floor orientated, more focused like that. But there's a gap. The time I feel is now. Let's take these things to the next level. Like, you know, it's not black, not white. It's cross culture. It's for everyone, you know. Yeah. And in Cape Town at that time, to open up like a premium urban, you know, / like mixed club was like, this is never going to work. I remember the brand managers coming like, bro, this is not going to work.
Wow.
We were the first bottle service club in Cape Town.
Crazy.
You know, and at that time I had my second daughter, Coco, and we were looking at the names and like, you know, for the venues, and it was like, this is perfect. I mean, Kate, my wife, she's like, you know, she actually said like, call her Coco, you know, and wow.
Incredible.
And in opened up Coco, and that was a whole new world, and a whole like, and I'm super grateful for everything I learned and still continue to learn, you know, from that platform. And basically, once again, getting deeper into the brands and the understanding of the culture and how brands show up in these different spaces, you know. Now it's more of like a lounging attitude. It's more show up. It's more the bottle glorifiers. It's more about, you know, as opposed to mass, it's about, you know, really impressing, you know, the kind of top tier of the market. Then it filters down into the rest of the markets. And so getting closer and closer to the cognacs and the champagnes lifestyle kind of, and how those brands communicate within that space, you know. And things like brand architecture became a big thing, you know, like even, you know, in Coco we had, when we opened the club, which was also very much like a world, like what's the word I'm looking for here? We had this shrine of basically of Moet and Chandon, like in the center of the club.
Yeah.
And it was used in like templates and decks and around the world. Like This is the way to do it, you know?
Wow.
And we just glorified champagne and that lifestyle and, you know, and it was amazing. And musically for me, it was fantastic as well, because now I just like started really understanding and broadening my eardrums, you know, to more hip hop culture, you know, more Afrobeat culture, more everything, you know, and I'm very grateful for that, you know, and obviously how different music effectively, you know, has different effects on different cultures and people, like on the dance floor, you know, and how people interact. And it was just fascinating, you know, from like a dance music culture where it's about dancing, now it's about lounging and showing up and just, you know, the passion and the communication and the energy around all of that is, in my mind, this magical and mystical, like
100%.
kind of like, I don't even know how to explain it, like energy in the air.
Definitely.
And that's what you want to grab.
Yes.
And that's the magic. and how it lives in all these different spaces by combining the music, the brands, the culture, and just effectively, you know, turning it into commerce, because that's what it is at the end of the day, you know.
It's an iconic spot, man. Jeez, I've had my fair share of throwdowns. In fact, when I first moved down to Cape Town, I think second or third day, I'd let you know when I moved here to head up Daisy's the side. You came and picked me up. We went to the club, and it's just great to see. I think trying to remember, Kulo the song was like playing at the club. And, and since then, it was definitely my spot. I'd come to all the time. But and it's incredible to see how it's meant so much for so many people, and so many important parties and events have happened there, and it's become like what Steph has achieved in Johannesburg with, from Latinova Sumo to all the other clubs he has done. It's definitely become one of those institutions here, you know. It felt like Cape Town didn't have a space like that, and now it was represented that way, you know. 100%. And also when the Joburg guys are down in Cape Town, I mean, geez, you go to the Coco in like December, it felt like you're back in Rosebank, you know.
That was it.
So it's incredible. Post Coco, I mean, if you had to look back at your career and say, what are some of the most special, that feeling that you're talking about that you can almost grab in the air, what would you say, which one of your shows that you've been involved with sort of took that to a level that...
Oh, man, they all have this different magic to them. Like, you know, it's difficult to say, you know. I think like, you know, memories, you know, that Dead Mouse show was super important and a moment in time because it opened up everything, you know. You know, I think also the strength of doing what you love and, you know, being noticed and just hammering at one thing, like leading into the next thing, you know. So over that time, you know, traveling to Miami, and, you know, I remember like literally sitting in like hallways of hotels waiting for like agents to like walk past so I can be like, hey, like, you know, like
crazy,
talk to me, you know what I mean? I want to bring this artist to the country, you know what I mean? Like, and within time getting to know who these people are and working with them and respecting each other has been amazing. And, you know, people like Dave Grapman, you know, who's a friend, you know, and what Dave's done in Miami has just been unbelievable. And
crazy. I'm
just super grateful to have this global network of people, you know, that I can kind of tap into. And that is just the evolution of like each one of these shows. So it's difficult to pinpoint one moment, you know, because everything just like leads into one another.
It's a culmination of these little pieces that make up. I love that.
But it's been about just passion, to be honest with you, you know.
Shaun, I've got two more questions for you before we wrap this up, brother.
No, sure.
Firstly, I just want to know, in terms of events, do you have a bit of a formula in terms of like, let's say half of your expenses maybe must be covered by sponsorship or you know, artist fees must be covered by ticket sales. Do you have some sort of high level formula that, you know, people out there that are running shows and sort of just things they can work towards to build out a successful event?
Look, you know, I think number one, and I keep bringing it up, is like passion, but also understanding the artist, the market, and understanding in your view how many tickets you believe this artist can sell.
Yeah.
You know, so there's the ticketing strategy that you need to obviously understand, you know. Then it's about the venues. How many venues, you know, I mean, how many people do you think that this artist could obviously fill within the space? Then it's understanding the market deeper to understand the ticket price, right? How much do you think this artist could sell a ticket for?
Yeah.
Then it's obviously, you know, because that's the agent who's going to ask you these questions. Okay, what is the capacity? What is the venue? What is your offer effectively? You know, so that's kind of the starting point to really understand the artist. Then it's a matter of, for me, understanding the brands that are out there. I put my kind of like brand hat on to think, okay, cool, this can be a really good fit for this brand because, you know, they're playing in the space. But it's no guarantee, because it's very rare that they work concurrently, that, you know, you book an artist and the brand comes on at the same time. A lot of the time you got to put your best foot forward, book the show, go out there, you know, push it as much as you can and hope that the sponsors, you know, get on board and you can offer the campaign and vehicle strong enough for them. So there's
It's like that with or without your energy, right?
It's exactly that.
Yeah,
and if you're going to just wait all the time for the brands to come on board, it's not going to happen. To be honest, So you've got to have some guts. You got to believe in the artist. You got to believe in the show. You got to go out there and make it happen. I think run your numbers closely. Work with people that know the space well. Try and really dig into the budgets, and really understand how many tickets it's going to sell to actually put the show at risk. Understand the risk that you're going to have. How much money can I lose if this whole thing goes belly up? Can I afford it? Obviously you want the sponsors to come on board and cover as much as they can. And when the campaign and the vehicle is strong enough to do it, it can make great sense, and they can come on board with a good amount, depending on how it's structured and what value it is for them and intrinsically what it does for that brand. But there's obviously these different layers of sponsorship. There's pouring rights deals, there's campaign deals, there's just infrastructure deals, there's activations, there's full through-the-line media. So, sorry, I'm going about a roundabout way here. It's difficult to give an answer.
No, it's a really good answer because you're taking it a lot deeper into different levels.
But ultimately, when making that offer to that artist, you've got to be realistic. Look, our biggest challenge is South Africa is our economy, right? And 9 times out of 10, we're pitching and we want artists out there that, are touring the world, getting paid big money in US dollars or, all these big currencies. So you really got to put your best foot forward. And, this is how much is available. This is what is possible. And you really got to paint the picture well for the artists, that you can deliver the show and give them an incredible experience. I mean, there's one thing also before, which I'd like to mention, is Bridges for Music. So Bridges, I'm on the board. We kicked it off 10 years ago when we brought Skrillex out here the first time. And what Bridges has become is this beautiful vehicle for electronic artists and all artists from around the world that come here and tour, that get into the community and get involved with the charity. And, we've had everybody from Skrillex to Ed Sheeran to Coffee to Luciano, Loco Das, gosh, RyX, everybody that comes down and gets involved with the school. But where I'm going and why I'm going back to that is when touring these artists, we can't compete financially with a show in Vegas.
100%.
It's not going to happen. You know what I mean? So again, you got to paint the picture for them. A lot of these guys want to come inside and do something for Africa. The beauty is Africa's the kind of the word at the moment, which is fantastic. And you got to make sure that you can deliver an incredible show for them at the end of the day, that the artists have a good time and just don't lose everything.
So it's also just make it, the monetary wise, you might not be able to compete with a bigger market, but make that offer a little bit more enticing. And involvement in the country and spaces, and really make it as meaningful as possible to. And you've done that so well,
Thanks, man. And you just got to be honest with the agents and guys, look, that's the capacity of the venues. This is the amount of tickets that need to be sold. You know what I mean? This is the ticket price. And based off that and working backwards on the calcs, I can make X amount of offer. And that's it. And on top of that, we'll do our best to get great content. We'll, take them into Bridges. We'll take them on a tour. We'll try throw in a safari. These types of things that make this African experience really special.
Much better,
for agents touring artists, routing is crucial. So right now, the next evolution needs to be opening up Africa to these artists, because 100%. To be in Europe over a weekend, you can do 5-6 shows over a week. You come to South Africa, you're out.
Got 3 shows max if you're lucky.
So we must open up Africa.
We
must open up everywhere from Kenya, Botswana to as many different territories as possible, 100%. Because then the artists and the agents will want to come here and it'll make more sense for them to tour here.
Got you. My next question was going to be, if I'm an aspiring promoter, what advice you would give them? But I feel like your last answer really took that in depth. I think there's some really great knowledge there. So my last question to you, bro, if money's not an issue, and you can bring one artist right now, who would it be?
Daft Punk.
Really?
But they won't tour.
Yeah, of course.
I think, look, if Fred again is my man, he's the answer.
100%,
He's the be all. He's the end all. You know, like for me, he just ticks every single box as like a music lover.
Yeah.
You know, like
got his merch on, bro.
I know. I noticed that. I was gonna steal it off your back, bro. Come on. Like, you know, I've been into his productions for the longest time. Yeah. And like when that Boiler Room set came out, I remember clocking it because like, oh my God, I can't wait to see it. And it was on like 1,400 like views. Now it's on like 20 million, whatever it is. And it's just watching the trajectory of his career like explode from that Boiler Room like moment. And it just doing all the right moves has just been such a beautiful story for me to watch because ultimately you're talking about someone from a passion point that loves what he does. Yes. This is someone who just genuinely, absolutely loves it. Yes. He's done it his way. He's done it, you know, to the beat of his own drum, and like the rest have fallen in. So it's quite interesting. Just like closing it out, you know, there's a few, you know, kind of statements over time that like ring true, and you keep remembering them. And there's two. One is don't chase money or gigs because it'll run away from you, you know. And I think being like a promoter and, you know, wanting to be, you know, in touch with what's next and in touch with culture and in touch with all these things, don't chase it. Don't chase it. Know that your role is to know your game. And that's what you're here to do, and you got to love what you do. But if you chase it, it'll run away from you. So just, you know, take your time, and maybe that'll help with the promoter thing. And the promoter question you mentioned. And Ed Sheeran at Bridges for Music, you know, someone asked in the crowd, like, you know, how did you do this? And he's like, it's simple. There was no plan B. There was no plan B.
Yeah.
That's it. That's me. You know, and I look at like Fred again, and to some extent my career, like, this is it, bro. This is me.
This is what I've got.
This is what I've got, you know, and you go through these ebbs and flows and like, am I doing the right thing? Because, you know, you've got to be like obsessed 90% of the time to love what you do, and you're constantly questioning yourself. And I think just be cautious, have people around you that you love and trust, and, you know, and speak to them about everything. But the second that you start asking too many other opinions about your heart, like a dream can't be wrong. You know, Rick Rubin recently said that. You know what I mean? So just go out there and just do your thing.
Incredible. Shaun, thank you so much, bro. You are an absolute legend in this industry. Hey, I know you don't even do this like podcast interview thing, so I really feel honored. And
that's a first. Thanks, bro.
You know, I feel like we can sit here for hours, bro, and just like you have so much knowledge that you can share with people. And thank you for doing this. I mean, you know, your show with Keinemusik as well. I just want to say, like, the amount of people that I've heard speaking about that show, and everything. You know, from like bringing Ultra out here and us being part of a bigger global circuit to, you know, forefront of EDM when it popped, to Coco out here, to your agencies and the people you work with. Like, you genuinely, I don't say this to many people, but you're one of the people that I just won't trust if they have anything bad to say about you. And so, thank you so much, bro, for everything that you do. Bro, and thank you for coming on the show, bro.
Thank you, bro.
Thank you, my brother. I appreciate it, man.
Thanks, epic. Yeah, that was beautiful. Thank you.
Special episode, bro. That goes down as my favorite one.